morning, Sunday runners. Where's the sun gone? If you're feeling a little bit less motivated for your run today, I'm with you. I understand. When the weather's good and it's nice out there, we've got ideal conditions, we fancy it. But, you know, we're going to go for it anyway. I will definitely be putting in my Sunday run day entry, and I hope that you guys will be too. So when you've finished your run, or at any other point throughout the week, you can revisit these videos. You can complete this stretch session. I'm going to focus a lot on the calves today. Definitely the backs of the legs. There's a little bit of outer hip in there, glutes, that sort of thing. Typical muscles that you find get particularly tense and tight and stiff and uncomfortable when you run a lot. Or even if you're sort of getting back into running in particular and you're kind of shocking the system a bit. So first stretch is a calf stretch using a step. So typically if you've been out for a run, if you're running on a treadmill, you can use the edge of the treadmill. If you've been outdoors for a run, then you'll find a curb, a log, a step, a stone or something to be doing that with. So you can bring both feet up onto the step. One is going to stay flat and completely grounded. I'm aware that my head's cut off in this video, so hopefully you don't mind. The other one is going to be kind of hanging off the edge of the step. And you can start in this tall kind of straight leg position for both legs. And then you're going to drop the back leg down off the back of the step and then lift. Just easing in gently. If you have revisited this video and you've come to it later on, you're perhaps not sort of super warm after a run, or perhaps if you've done a rollering session before, your muscles will be kind of a little bit more ready to accommodate this sort of thing. So that's the first step, is to rise and fall just gently through that range of motion in your calf. And you can exaggerate this as well by bringing both feet up onto tiptoes and then allowing them both to come down. Lift. Down. And then taking a little bit of time, around about 30 seconds, say, to just stay in that static stretch once you've taken a few range of motion rise and falls. And then bending the knee of the back leg just to then tap into the soleus. So the muscle, one of the muscles that makes up the calf, the bottom muscle that joins the gastrocnemius, the big round one. And then you can straighten the leg again, take a little bit of pressure off, ease yourself into it, bend the knee, straighten the leg, bend the knee. Don't worry if your foot kind of walks its way back a little bit, just readdress your position and then hold that soleus stretch for a little while with a bent knee. Now, if you're anything like me, you might have tight hips as a result of either sitting or various activity, training, things like that. And you might find that when you bend your knee to get this soleus stretch, that your knees want to kind of point in towards each other. So just being aware of that and really trying to drive the knee of the back leg to make sure that it is facing as forward as possible. Good. And then changing sides. So you're going to bring the other leg nice and flat on the step or whatever surface you're using and drop the other hip down. The other heel down, sorry. And then you're going to rise and fall just gently through that range of motion. Especially if you haven't taken time to warm up, you need to be really careful that you're not going straight in to these static stretches. Good. Up onto tiptoes, back down. Up onto tiptoes, back down. And again, just taking a few there. And then tapping into that soleus again, bending your back leg. Keeping the body nice and upright where possible. Lengthening through the back leg, bending again. Lengthening And bending. Adjust your foot position if it moves. Mine always does. Good. And just making sure that that knee's not kind of coming in towards the other one and that you're trying to point the knees forwards. Bend and just holding that soleus stretch, so the lower part of the calf, for a little bit longer. Good. And then bringing yourself off of whatever step or platform you're using. I'm just going to move mine out of the way. And then taking some standing stretches for your calves. So the first one will probably be really familiar. Stepping into a sort of lunge position where the front leg is bent and the back leg is straight. You're really driving the back knee kind of backwards to get this length down the back of the leg and keeping the heel in contact with the ground. As usual, torso nice and upright to begin with, and keeping that heel down on the ground. Play around with it if you feel that you're sort of quite comfortable. Try moving the leg back a little bit. And actually, if you've got a wall or a surface in front of you, you can use that to sort of press against to help intensify this stretch. Okay. And then you can also kind of reach the arms up here. Take a little lean backwards. Get a bit of extra length through the front body, through the front of the hips. And fold forwards. You can bring your hands to the ground and open up one, keeping that front knee bent, and if you want to, readjust yourself to keep that length. Opening up the chest, I always find this really comforting. Keeping the heel pressed down, actively keeping that knee kind of lifted and the length in the back of the leg. Good. And then bringing yourself upright so that you've got both legs nice and straight. And then you're going to keep both legs straight. Just bring the hand of the front leg towards the ground. You can place it on your shin if that helps. And you're in this kind of triangle position. And you'll just find that you're still getting length down the back of the back leg, yes, but you're getting a lovely stretch into the adductors and the hamstring of the front leg. And you can do the same. You can open up the chest here. Take a little bit of a rotation. And if you want to, bring the hand down lower or meet the ground. It doesn't really matter how low you get. That's not the goal. The goal is to just feel the stretch down the back of both legs really here. So you might be here, and you'll feel a really intense stretch, and that's absolutely fine. So the goal is not how low you get, so to speak. Okay, so we're going to just step in now, change sides. So other leg forward, bending into that front knee, keeping the belly lifted and chest open as always. Keeping the back heel down on the ground. So we're all made up differently. We've all got tension, hold tension in different areas. My back foot always wants to sort of come ever so slightly out, so stick slightly outwards. And that's okay, as long as it's not completely out there. Just have a little bit of awareness about where your foot is and try and point both feet forward where possible. Okay, so taking that kind of weight into the front thigh, keeping the back knee lifted, push back the length down back of the leg, getting that calf stretch. And like I said, if you've got a wall here that you can just kind of lean forward onto, or a table, or something like that, you'll find a little bit of intensity in this stretch. You can also just kind of lean over the front thigh to intensify that stretch. Either hands on the hips or on the thigh. Good. And remember that when you're in this kind of sort of half lunge position, you can keep the arms up, creating length through the lats, the side body, and take a slight little mini back bend, get a little bit of extra length down the hip back leg. And if you want to, bringing yourself down to the ground, you can place one hand down on the ground. Take a rotation in the other direction. Keeping the back heel on the ground, being aware of that length in the back of the leg. And then straightening out the front leg. You can come all the way up to standing if that feels better. And then start to bring yourself down into this sort of triangle stretch here, where you'll notice a much more intense stretch coming into the front leg now, the back of the front leg, the inner thigh, groin area. You're still getting that lovely little rotation, opening up the chest. Bring yourself up to standing and legs together. So those are lovely movements that just flow nicely together. And then another favourite, I think we've done this before together, is just to stand with your feet in a comfortable position so that your feet aren't glued together, but they're not really wide. Okay, comfortable standing position around about hip width apart. And then reaching the arms up nice and high, or having them on the hips if you feel that you need to guide your hips backwards, to bring yourself down into a bend. And you're bending from the hips, not the back, okay? So if by having the arms up, you kind of have this tendency to kind of lose length in the midsection, then you might want to put your hands on your hips, because it's a nice way of encouraging your chest, shoulders, and length in the midsection. So whichever works for you, you're reaching back with the hips and bending forwards. So you should immediately start to feel a stretch in the top of the hamstrings. You'll probably feel it all the way down the back of the legs, especially depending on your flexibility. But definitely in the top of the hamstrings into the glutes here. Bringing the hands wherever it feels comfortable. It might be just above the knee, might be just below the knee, not on the knee preferably, so not forcing joints back in any way. And then walking yourself down, bringing the hands towards the ground into a position that feels manageable for you, without your muscles kind of going to that panic, I want to buckle and the knees want to bend. So actively keeping your belly button lifted in this position, still not curling back, keeping it flat, and lifting your pelvis up behind you to encourage even more length in that top part of the legs. Good, and then you can bend the knees, bring the hands to the ground, let the chest kind of relax on the thighs a little bit. And then encourage that length again, so you might bring your hands to shins, ankles, wherever you find that you can get that length and manage that length for a little while. Good, softening the knees and allowing the body to relax. And then lengthening again, flattening out the back, opening up the chest, and just bringing yourself to whatever position feels manageable for you. You can also pedal the knees a little bit here, just to take a little bit of the tension out, especially if you're still kind of warming up into these stretches, if you're going in cold. But to be fair, hopefully after this first little sequence on the step, you should be feeling a little bit warmer, a little bit more mobile. But that's a lovely way of taking the panic out of the muscles that sometimes need the stretch but don't want to stretch. And bending the knees, relaxing, keeping the pelvis lifted. Final stretch here. And bending the knees to bring yourself up to standing. We're going to go into some of our kneeling stretches now. So I'm starting with left foot forward, taking the right foot back. Creating a nice long kneeling lunge position. Taking all of my weight into the front leg, the left leg. And there should be enough space that you're not kind of going up onto tiptoes here. Okay, if you find that you're getting onto tiptoes, then try just bringing your feet further forward. So for example, if I'm back here and I try and lean in, my heel lifts. So just make sure you've got that stride length and you're aware of that. Getting this lovely length down the back of the hip flexor, untucking the toe, keeping this open chest again. You can intensify the stretch by mirroring what we did in our standing calf position. Lifting the arms, taking a mini back bend if it feels comfortable to do so, nothing too crazy. And then bringing the hands back to centre or resting on the thigh if that feels good. Another option is to take the hand of the open side of the body, so usually that would be the back leg, and reaching over to the opposite direction, giving yourself a little bit of extra length in the side body. Good. And then from here, I'm going to get you to bring yourself into a nice piriformis stretch called pigeon, which we have done before. So your front leg is going to come across in front of you. Your hands will be in front of that leg. And you're going to stretch the back leg out away from you. You might have to play around with this position a little bit. Some people kind of need this front foot up out quite far in front of them to feel the stretch in the glute and in the piriformis area. In either instance, you want to try and have your weight fairly evenly balanced. So you're in a central position, you're not leaning too far to the left or too far to the right. Although there is benefit in that movement, and as you do that, you will notice a shift in emphasis on the stretch. So if you've got all-round glute tightness, you might want to take a little bit of movement. Okay, so holding on to this stretch here and making sure that you've still got that lovely length through the back leg. And if it feels good to do so and you want to, you can bring yourself down onto your elbows to intensify that stretch in the glute of the front leg. And if you find this difficult to manage, you can use a yoga block or blankets or cushions or something for your head. And if you want to, you can bring yourself even lower, bring the head to the ground to intensify that stretch some more. Just taking a little bit of time here. And then lifting the head, walking the hands back towards you, tucking the back toe, and lifting the body so that you can come out of that stretch. Okay. And then we're going to go into our kneeling stretches on the other side. So right leg is stepping forward this time, untucking the toe of the back leg, and then sitting forward into the right leg. Good. And just being aware of that weight distribution through the foot, okay? If the heel's lifting, try taking your stride length a little bit longer. And really sitting into that front leg, allowing that length through the hip flexor of the back leg. And where you want to, you can lift the arms again. And take a little tiny back bend. Again, nothing too bonkers. Good, bringing the hands back to centre and either manage sort of staying here or resting into that front thigh if you want to. And then lifting the arm of the back leg and reaching over to the opposite side to create some length in the side body. Good. Coming back to the middle. Shifting the weight back a little bit so that you can move yourself now into your piriformis stretch, that pigeon stretch that we've just done on the left side of the body. So now, right leg, my right leg, coming across the body, hands down to the ground, lengthening out that back leg. So you might be in this kind of upright pigeon position, and that's absolutely fine. Keeping the belly lifted, not allowing the kind of shoulders to hunch and come round. Opening the chest, keeping space between the front delts. Belly button drawn back and nice and active to support you here. That's it, making sure the back toe is untucked and you're really lengthening that back leg. And you should therefore get the stretch here. And if you want to, and if it feels good to do so, bringing yourself down onto your elbows. You can rest your head on something if it feels a little bit uncomfortable in the neck area here. And again, if you want to, you can bring your head down to the ground to intensify that stretch. Taking a little bit of time in this position, and then lifting the head and bringing the hands back to bring yourself into an upright pigeon position. Tuck the toes, lift the body to bring yourself out of that position. So last thing we're going to do is another piriformis stretch. It's a figure of four stretch that you may well be very familiar with. So bringing yourself down onto your back with your knees bent. And if you find that you've got quite an arch in your back, then you might want to tuck the pelvis a couple of times to really try and flatten the back out and have as much contact with the ground as possible. Although moving into this figure of four stretch is going to help with that anyway. So you're going to bring one leg up. For me, I'm working on the left side first, and place it on the knee. And then lifting the right foot off the ground, tucking the hands behind the back of the right thigh, right in behind the knee, to bring both legs towards your body, relaxing the head on the ground. And you'll notice this in the glute area again, in the piriformis again. So just taking a moment there. And then what I'm going to get you to do now is take your legs over to the right hand side. And this is a modification that's going to bring a little bit more emphasis to the outside of the hip IT area. So bringing the arms out to the side, if you can, keeping them there and keeping your shoulders on the ground, and just moving the legs over to the right hand side until your left foot is nice and flat on the ground. Like I said, trying to keep both shoulders on the ground here. And you will feel the stretch nice and high up in the outer hip in your glute there. If you aren't feeling that as much as you'd like to, you can try bringing both legs higher up, closer to the top half of your body. And you might find that that little shift is enough to bring the emphasis into that area. And just taking a moment there to enjoy that stretch. Good. And then bring in the legs back to centre and untucking. And then you're going to change legs. So this time, right leg up on the left thigh, clasping the hands behind the back of the left leg. You might need to lift the torso to reach comfortably, but then relax it back down again as you encourage that leg, both legs back towards your top body. So feeling this stretch in the back of the hamstring, into the glute, in the piriformis of the top leg. So on the right hand side at the moment. And taking a moment there to just enjoy that. And then again, we're going to take that modification, bringing the arms out to the side and allowing that right foot, as you start to move the foot over to the left hand side, you'll already feel it, the stretch move into the outside of the right hip and the IT area. in this figure of four position still, but with your right foot flat on the ground. Now for me, my right hip is tighter than my left, so this already feels quite intense. On the left hand side, I really felt that I needed to lift both feet up towards my head a bit, but on this side it feels quite intense already. I have got a little bit of movement there to take, so I've taken it, and feel free to try it. But you will really notice this shift from just piriformis and glute into the outer hip and IT area. Good. And then bring in the feet back to centre. I think I said that was the last stretch I wanted to do, but actually another really nice stretch that leads on from here is happy baby. So I'm going to get you to bring the knees into the chest. Okay. If it feels difficult to bring both in at one time, then just take one and then the other. Okay, and that will kind of help take a little bit of pressure out of the abdomen area. If you feel like your abdominals kind of bulge or pop when you're trying to lift both legs off the ground, then that's something we need to talk about, so please do let me know. Okay, so you're in this position, and this is a lovely stretch in itself, isn't it? We've all done this stretch. Okay, but what you're going to do is take yourself into this happy baby stretch, which is where you're lengthening through the legs a bit. You're going to take the inside of the feet. It looks wonderful, I know, wonderfully glamorous, but my golly, it's a lovely stretch. It's so comforting. Really opens up the back of the pelvis, gives you lots of length through the lower back, through the glutes. Okay. Lovely stretch. And we're not going to overly strive in this position. I just want you to kind of relax and rest in this position. There are ways of kind of being more active here and creating tension between the hands and the feet and things like that. But for today's purpose, I just want you to kind of open the back of the hips and the pelvis. Just kind of try and relax in that happy baby position. Take a few nice breaths. Some people find it really soothing if you suffer with a little bit of backache and things like that, to just kind of rock slightly left and forward in this position. Part of me can't believe I'm doing this on camera for you all to view and knock me about later on. But there you are. It's worth it. Such a good stretch. It feels amazing. Okay, good. And then allowing the fingertips to come back, perhaps towards the knees, legs to come closer together. And just relax here, bringing the feet down onto the ground, and then bringing yourself up in a way that feels comfortable. If you feel comfortable to come straight up, you want to take the back of the legs and rock yourself up. If not, bring yourself over to the side and bring yourself up to sitting. So that's the end of your Sunday run day, post-run stretch session. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please give me your feedback with these videos. Are you enjoying them? Are you still enjoying them? Is there enough content here for you to revisit that you feel comfortable with for the time being? Would you like something else? Would you like me to focus on some strength work for your running or something else? Your feedback's really important to me, and with that I can plan and evolve and continue to provide you with a service that you think is worthwhile and that you get a lot out of. So I look forward to hearing from you. Enjoy your Sunday run day, even though it's a little bit miserable outside. Who cares? We want to run, so we will. See you later, guys.